Our Earth is nearly 3/4 ocean. We're told that this is where life began. For thousands of years, mankind exploited the ocean, drawing food from it and throwing refuse into it. But we've lately learned better. It's taken us a long time to discover the need to protect our birthplace. Now the dream of clean oceans and clean shores has become an urgent necessity for everyone on Earth. The aesthetic and recreational aspects of the ocean are important in the lives of millions of people. It's a vital source of food for millions more all over the world. And if you've ever spent a day at the shore, stop for a moment and try to remember, how did you get there? For better or worse, our modern civilization is mobile. We're on the move. Even a generation ago, no one dreamed that people would ever move about so much, so fast, and so far. Our cars have become part of us, and they run on petroleum products. Oil is the lifeblood of today's world. We need more and more oil, and we want it at a reasonable price. But we have an obligation to preserve and protect our ocean environment. Are these needs incompatible? Do we have to sacrifice one to have the other? Supertankers like this have been developed in order to move crude oil from the wells to the refineries in the fastest and cheapest way possible. The average modern supertanker can carry 5 times as much cargo as the average oil carrier of 20 years ago. And one of these huge vessels costs far less to build than these 5 smaller ships. The less expensive it is to handle oil, the lower the prices at the gas station. Today's average supertanker is about 200,000 tons. It's so gigantic that most of us can't even imagine it. Picture a football field. Now picture 3 football fields laid end to end. The 200,000-ton tanker is considerably longer yet. And far bigger ships are in operation right now. Nature hasn't always laid out the world's geography for our best interests. Loading ports near oil-producing areas are often inadequate or even non-existent. The same may be true of unloading ports near refineries and industrial areas. The big problem is always the depth of the water nearby. As vessels and their cargoes grow increasingly larger, harbor channels have to be increasingly deeper to admit them. Our 200,000-ton tanker draws about 70 feet of water when fully loaded. The deepest port on the East Coast has a channel depth of 48 feet. the Gulf Coast, 45 feet. And on the West Coast, 62 feet. The appalling fact is that there is no port in the entire United States deep enough for our average-size supertanker to unload. And there are in service right now about 100 supertankers of 300,000 tons and over. That's 4 football fields and more. They're the cheapest means of transporting crude oil. But what do we do with them? How do we unload them? Harbor channels can be dredged still deeper and docking facilities enlarged. But this is expensive work and it takes a lot of time. Also, dredging is a continuing operation in order to maintain the channel. Artificial offshore islands have been proposed so that supertankers could load and unload in deep water. But the enormous amounts of time and money for construction are plainly prohibitive. We could anchor our supertankers at sea and shuttle their cargoes to the docks in smaller vessels. However, unloading a supertanker this way cancels out the main reasons for its existence: speed and economy. The weather can cause delays, and shuttle ships may not be available when they're needed. It could take 2 weeks and more to unload a big ship by shuttle, and the leasing and operating costs of the smaller ships might add $1.5 million to the cost of the oil cargo. There are also very important environmental disadvantages in each of these proposals. When we enlarge our harbor facilities, traffic there increases, and that means an increase in congestion and in the possible danger of collision. Dredging involves far-reaching changes in the ocean floor. The entire underwater ecosystem is disrupted. A man-made island is an artificial, industrial thing, and it won't please everyone's aesthetic senses. Use of the shuttle system means a great number of couplings and uncouplings of pipelines, and these are the times when the danger of spill is greatest. Does all this mean, then, that the supertanker is a modern-day dinosaur? A freak whose preposterous size makes it unmanageable and useless? The answer is no, and this is why. A floating terminal like this, a single-point mooring system or monoboy, is the ideal offshore loading and unloading station for supertankers. The terminal is a large steel buoy securely anchored to the ocean floor. In an unloading operation, fluid cargoes such as oil are pumped from the ship through floating hoses to the buoy, and then through pipelines on the ocean floor to shore installations. Cargoes pass in the opposite direction when loading. Cargoes can also be pumped from ship to shore and from shore to ship simultaneously through separate chambers and hoses. Instead of anchoring, the tanker moors directly to the buoy. The hose connections on the buoy can swivel so that the ship swings easily with changes in wind and current, and vessels of almost any size can be handled. These terminals may be located virtually any required distance offshore. Monoboys were first built and put into use in the late 50s. Now there are over 150 of them in operation around the world in all kinds of climates and ocean conditions. In wave simulating devices such as this, the buoy design has been perfected to withstand far greater stresses of weather and sea than it will ever have to meet in actual operation. Monoboys are even located in areas where typhoons and hurricanes are common. But today, in all parts of the world, industrial engineers are concerned with more than just the usefulness of their products. They also recognize an obligation to protect our home, our planet, and from that standpoint, the preservation of a clean coastal environment. A single-point mooring system is the perfect solution to the problems of handling modern supertankers. They present very little disturbance to marine life, hardly more, in fact, than a navigational buoy does. When we deepen harbor channels, build new breakwaters and enlarge docks in order to bring in the super ships, It makes about as much sense as to remodel the family garage to accommodate a bus. The big ships just don't belong in port. We would be ravaging our coasts and harbors needlessly. The huge vessels and the business of loading and unloading oil should be kept offshore, far from congested harbors. The ships can be maneuvered more easily in open water. Even when the monoboy is anchored only a few miles off the coastline, it can't be seen from the beach. The tanker moored to it is no more intrusive than any other ship on the horizon. The buoys are located well out of traffic lanes and are provided with a battery-powered foghorn and navigation lights. Also, out here in open water, there's far less probability that a spill can take place. If one did occur, there's less chance of danger to marine life, birds, and beaches. It's much easier to control a spill offshore than in a busy port, and efficient containment equipment is available. The monoboys have an excellent safety record. Numerous buoys are located in Japan, close inshore, near busy fishing grounds. Also in the Mediterranean, off the southern coast of France, there's a major monoboy terminal very close to the tourist paradise of the Riviera. The economic advantages of the monoboy system are enormous, and every one of them relates directly to the consumer's pocketbook. Any expense in the shipping of oil is going to be paid for by the motorist at the gas station. The single-point mooring system requires a far lower capital investment than building new harbors, extensive dredging of present harbors, enlarging docks along the shore, and the construction of artificial offshore islands. Also, the maintenance costs of the buoys is far less than for any of these other facilities. In addition, there are several very special advantages that are unique to monoboy terminals. The buoys can be located in areas where no other loading or unloading facility would be practicable. Therefore, new and even remote locations of raw materials can be opened up and new markets developed. In times of energy shortage, new sources and faster shipment are of critical importance to all industrial countries. And one of the most striking advantages of all, the buoys can be relocated. When the need diminishes at one location, they can be moved to another. At a time when the quest for oil has become a matter of supreme importance, the supertanker and the single-point mooring system are the most significant modern developments in the world's race for petroleum products. It's the great environmental advantages of the single-point mooring system that should be stressed most of all. Its effect on the coast is completely favorable. With monoboys, there's no reason to expand shoreline docking facilities, and important waterfront land isn't removed from residential and recreational use. The buoys themselves are invisible when they're only a couple of miles offshore. Equally important, their effect on the fragile ecosystem of the ocean is very slight. Far less, in fact, than that of any other kind of oil terminal. And when tankers load and unload offshore, the chance of a serious spill is greatly reduced. If the world's increasing demand for fuel is to be filled, and if the price is to be reasonable, then the supertankers are the only efficient means of transporting it. At the same time, we must have practical terminals where they can safely load and unload, and the lower the cost, the better. Dredging harbors and building either docks or artificial islands are fantastically expensive and time-consuming operations. Unloading by shuttle ships also greatly increases the cost of oil. The single-point mooring system is designed to be the ideal terminal for supertankers. It has a much lower initial cost than any other installation, and that means cheaper oil. The monoboys are safe, practical, and efficient, and their engineers care about the present and the future of the ocean. Our dream of a clean environment for ourselves and our children can come true. Whenever technology moves ahead, in company with a sincere concern for man and nature, everyone benefits. All our dreams aren't built of sand.